Cancel culture. We've been hearing a lot of people talk about cancel culture recently, and honestly, I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm pissed. You know why? Because it's such a nothing. It's so nothing. Nothing happens. Nothing ever comes from this. Absolutely. It's the most hypocritical loser talking point I've ever heard, that now every single conservative, every single person now, it's their like free speech rallying cry. It's incredible to me to think that they've evolved to the point where they now have their own little like scapegoat. Anytime anything bad happens to them, for whatever reason, now it's cancel culture. Everything is cancel culture, okay? Everything, for some reason. I have no clue why. It's ridiculous to me. This has happened, all right, for a long time. And when I say a long time, I mean it basically goes back to the old Gamergate, right? Of like Anita Sarkeesian. She was trying to cancel, right? She was trying to cancel when she said that it was untasteful that whenever a female character is drawn, they have like an extreme hourglass shape, like super duper sexualized, and like quadruple Z titties. You couldn't even see her face over her massive voluptuous milk jugs. Okay, couldn't even see her. It's just titty. Yeah, her poor back. With all that being said, it's moved into today, to the point where they don't even talk about anything else. It's just cancel culture. It's just the culture war, right? Just the culture war. It's only the culture war. Donald Trump was the culture war president. He made it fashionable for everyone to not talk about, for Republicans to not talk about economics anymore. It's mind blowing and so infuriating that we don't even have anyone to argue against anymore. Here on the left, I just argue with libs now. I can't argue with lots of people on the right. They don't live in reality. They just don't. I think Pac-Man put it one of the best ways that I've heard recently is that they're unpopular. Conservatives are unpopular. Their ideas are unpopular. People don't like them, right? When Donald Trump is the least popular president in all of presidential polling history. He polled worse than every president that has ever polled. Ever, right? The Republicans didn't do well either. They're horribly unliked. They only appeal to the very small minority of their base, and the rest of the country hates them. Their ideas are not liked. Most people want stronger gun restrictions. Most people want more equality, especially when it comes to LGBTQ youth. More people want it to be easier to vote. More people like the way the country's going and don't like the way that Republicans want to pull the country. It's just they are lost on every single front, from like the culture to just like plain policy. And lots of people also want people to tax the rich more. Just everything that they stand for is just horribly disliked by anyone who spent any amount of time thinking about these policies for more than maybe 10 seconds. They don't like them. So how do they stay relevant, right? If they can't work on policy anymore, how do they stay relevant? Well, they have to make up their own problems. They have to invent their own scenarios. They have to try to pretend like they're fighting another war. They have to tell their people that they're at war, and they need to be constantly drumming the war drum over something that doesn't matter whatsoever, right? At all. It doesn't matter at all. These people, unironically, are sitting here. There are now sitting politicians in the federal House of Representatives and the Senate who are like, I don't want to live in a society that cancels Dr. Seuss, Mr. Potato Head, and Aunt Jemima, right? And in The Mandalorian. You think these things matter? People are starving, and you're talking about Mr. Potato Head. What's happening? Like, what's wrong with you? Isn't that shocking to you? Doesn't that blow your mind? That right now we're talking about like a $15 minimum wage. We're talking about like COVID relief. The Republicans are nowhere to be found on COVID relief, but there was someone actually made an impassioned speech on the House of Representative floor about the need for Mr. Potato Head. Like, holy crap. Wait, yeah, here it is. Look at this. Look how mind-blowing this is.
Let's not attempt to steal knowledge of our nation's history from our children like the Grinch attempted to steal Christmas. I rise to honor the legendary Dr. Seuss for Read Across America Day. Yesterday would also have been his 117th birthday. Before he became a world-famous writer, Seuss attended Dartmouth College, my alma mater. He was also a member of the New Hampshire Alpha chapter of the fraternity Sigma Phi Epsilon, of which I was also a member. We used to love showing Theodore Geisel's class photo on the wall to visitors, but in the spirit of cancel culture, Publishers have discontinued 6 of his books. Dr. Seuss was known as a progressive for his time. His famous story, The Lorax, was about protecting the environment. My favorite, Marvin K. Mooney, Will You Please Go Now? My 6-year-old daughter thinks it was written just for her. Children grow up dreaming about, Oh, the Places You'll Go, a Dr. Seuss book about the lessons we find throughout our life's journey. We should all respect and honor Dr. Seuss and forget this cancel culture nonsense. I yield back.
That is something a sitting member of the federal House of Representatives said. That's how Republicans are spending their time. As 26 million Americans are slipping into poverty, as we're grappling with climate change, as we're grappling with a crumbling economy, as we're grappling with a shattering infrastructure, as we're trying to fight ICE, as we're trying to figure out what we do with immigrants, as we're doing all of these massive movements in the country. It's extremely transient time in our political history. Conservatives are actually spending time talking about Mr. Potato Head and 6 Dr. Seuss books that said like the Chinese boy has eye with slant, and these guys are like, I need to be able to read this to my child. My culture is being taken from me. This matters not for anyone who's not them, but it matters a lot for them because they have no issues. They have none. There's no issues that they can win on. They don't even have arguments. They have no real arguments besides talking to an echo chamber. That's completely it. And when you see them try to actually step out of their comfort zone and actually try to pretend to actually be a part of the general discourse, you end up like Madison Cawthorn. Remember that CNN interview that he had where he got clapped on every single one of his points, where he was like he was like a broken record. She knew every single line. She actually was sitting there. She crafted things to put up on screen for when he said it, when he was going to say it, like what he was going to say when he said it. Like she already had this planned out to the T. He walked into every single one of her traps like a freaking Scooby-Doo villain and ripped the mask off. Like if it wasn't for you and your meddling kids, I would have taken healthcare away from trans people. Like it's wild to me. But this cancel culture is a plot. It's a ploy, all right? It's a smoke screen. It's pocket sand, okay? It's everything, all right? Here's what it is. It is a tool to allow Republicans to pacify their base, right? To pacify all of these people into believing that their culture is being taken from them. They're going to be canceled, right? For like misgendering the fucking trans fluid person at their like workplace who goes by a different pronoun once every 0.25 milliseconds, and if you pick the wrong one, you're going to be sent to HR where they'll instantly fire you, and you'll lose your PayPal account, and then you'll live on the streets for all eternity and be forced to fucking suck dicks for Chuck E. Cheese tokens that you'll have to sell on eBay to feed yourself or something along those lines, right? It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It just won't happen. It is a ploy to allow them to continue racism, sexism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, all right? Classism, ageism, sexism, all of these things, all of these forms of oppression, so they can continue to push them without you paying attention to it because you're too busy stuck on Mr. Potato Head. You're too busy stuck on Aunt Jemima. You're too busy stuck on Gina Carano. You're too busy stuck on Dr. Seuss. You're too busy stuck on all of these meaningless things. You're too busy stuck on changing the names of like some military bases away from like slave owners. That's what you're worried about, and not the fact that people are running out the back door with like the financial safety of your children. That's what you're caring about. An invention of their own creation, a monster. All right. It is they sit their constituents inside a little sensory deprivation chamber where they play over and over and over again what they actually have to believe, while on the outside they're easily stealing away your future of yourself and your children without anybody on the right the wiser. And that's why they don't talk about these things anymore. That's why they don't talk about economics anymore, really. That's why they don't talk about even real policy anymore. They don't, because everything revolves around this cancel culture now. They've completely opted out of politics. Our political system is meant to work when people act in good faith, right? They have to act in good faith for this thing to work. They've just completely gummed up the works. They realize that they can't work within the system because they're so incredibly unpopular. All the conservatives before them tried to work within the system. All the conservatives before them tried to actually be in good faith. And when they realized, they look back in history and they realize that they can't actually work within the system because they won't win. They decide just not to do it, period. Why should they? They'll lose. So instead of actually playing a game you know you'll lose, make up a game where you can create the rules on the fly. You know, now whatever you say against me is cancel culture, and everything that I see bad is now a new rallying cry of the culture being taken from me. They're always on the back foot. They always are fiending for power, right? But they don't want to use it. That's not the point. The Republican Party is not meant to have power. It's not crafted for it. Remember how they talked about how every single year during the Obama administration, they talked about how much they want to revoke the Affordable Care Act. It was like 10 years they want to revoke the Affordable Care Act. 10 years. And once they finally had the power, once they finally had a trifecta, what did they do? Did they do it? Absolutely not. They didn't. They had no plan. They had no plan to get it done. For 10 years, they were talking about it, and not a single plan was put forward. Remember when Donald Trump said repeal and replace, repeal and replace, repeal and replace, and then it was just like repeal, and then it was like, let's just gut it? They had no plan to replace. They don't govern. That's not what they do. They're not meant to do that because it's not beneficial for them anymore. If they played the same game that other Republicans did, other conservatives did back in the past, they would lose every single time. So they learned, right? They learned that instead of giving people the right to vote, because people don't like them, so if they give them the right to vote, then they won't vote for them. Why do that when you can take their vote away? Fight against their vote. Fight against that. Ooh, wow. Now look at that. Huh. Now all the people who don't like you, they don't even get the chance to vote. They're and they check out of politics. And then you get a tiny bit more power, but not enough to actually be forced to govern. They don't want to do that. They don't actually have any plans, remember? So what's the point? They can just screw people over and just gum up the works as much as possible, right? Until they can get their way. And what I mean by their way, honestly, it's just a big ploy for fundraising. It's a massive ploy. I mean, Donald Trump is still fundraising for his campaign at this very moment and using that money for his own personal gain. It's just a massive grift. That's what it's turned into. The Republican Party has turned into an incredibly large grift, and it's disgusting. They would like to engage in every single piece of oppression that they possibly can to build a massive cage around the working class to insulate themselves from their problems. Remember, like Ted Cruz flying to Cancun while his constituents starve, and more likely than not, then he's going to be still reelected because maybe there'll be a new cancel culture thing to be talking about then. Ooh, they canceled fucking Bugs Bunny for doing a blackface in like 1992 when they just stopped playing when they just stopped playing those cartoons, right? They just stopped playing the cartoons instantly. Everything is canceled. No, right? Because that's what you should care about. And they'll make a rallying cry off of that. We're going to stop the cancel culture. Wow, they won't stop anything. Really? They're not there for it. That's not their goal. So this is where we are now, right? Stuck in a country where these people don't want to play the political game. They don't want to engage in real politics. They just want to cry and bitch and moan and make up their own scenarios for how the world is going, to be able to pacify people into believing their political prescriptions and blind them to what's actually happening in the country, to continue the divide between the working class, to continue the divide between the haves and the have-nots for their own political gain. How do you think the left should respond to this? Like when conservatives are pearl clutching over nothing? I think the best way to respond is just like do what they do. Just gesture at hypocrisy, right? Just gesture at hypocrisy. Just do it. Because when they got canceled, remember when they got canceled, my bad. When they say they've been canceled, what do they start doing? They start canceling. Or when nothing happens at all, they start canceling. Remember, football man no stand up. Why football man no stand up? And it became a massive rallying cry during like spring and summer, because football man no stand up, and he's disrespecting the flag, so he must be wiped away, must be canceled. Basically, he had to cancel. They started canceling her. They canceled the NFL. They canceled the NBA. They canceled everything that did things that they don't like. That's just what they do, right? Conservatives have always been the cancelers. They've always been the ones to try and shut down discourse because they don't like it. If they don't like it, they don't want to hear it, so they try and shut it down. They did that with the Monty Python movies. They do that with like blasphemous content, right? They've always done this all throughout history. That's just what conservatives do. They shut down discourse. Donald Trump came into office trying to open up libel law so he can sue people saying mean things about him. Like all these people do. All these people do is cancel, right? Even Tucker Carlson, when Nike did picked up Colin Kaepernick and the whole football man no stand up meme, his fans tried to cancel coffee machines, pillows, and running shoes. Remember all those times when like conservatives were like literally torching their Nike gear because football man no stand up? Really? Nice one, mate. Nice one, dude. Wow. Really, y'all really hate cancel culture, huh? Isn't that something, right? They don't. Just wave at the hypocrisy and then throw their opinions away, because that's all they're worth. They're worth nothing. They're not real opinions, okay? They're really not. I'm not triggered. I've never been triggered. It's ridiculous.